In this video, I'll talk about what I found to be the most effective way to instill in my children the values that I care about the most. Because this is a channel where we talk about personal change and transformation, as you can imagine, it has to do with our own personal growth. How is that linked? Well, as parents, you know very well that there is this kind of burden that we have to carry for giving our children the best chances to become good members of society, to help them develop their own sense of agency, and allow them to explore the world in a way that maximizes the chances for them to get appreciated by others, to create meaningful relationships, and ultimately just live a life of, peace and fulfillment while doing whatever they feel drawn to do. That's in the end, at least, how I see the outcome and the responsibility of a parent. What I realized, however, is that no matter how much I try to paint an ideal picture for them of what kind of values they should model in their life. Um, just by the nature of experiencing day-to-day parenting, I saw that I cannot bypass the fact that they will first of all model what they see, and this is for sure something that you also realized, and it's rather obvious. But children are like sponges, right? At least in their beginning years, up to I think 7 years of age, or even more, they are really mimicking what they are seeing around them, and that's tightly linked ultimately to their own need, for survival, right? It's like a survival, like a requirement for them, because they are highly dependent, directly dependent on the adults that care for them and the adults that they are surrounded by on a day-to-day basis. Which means that they have to be very, very astute and receptive at seeing or perceiving our intentions. And children are very receptive as long as they see congruence in terms of what they hear and what they see. So if our behavior and our attitude and overall state of mind matches what we are saying, then that's ideal. If we are tense and rigid and give them an advice which is contrary to our energy, then they will not get it. They will find some sort of misalignment there. And this accounts for every single little thing where we think that if we know what's best for them, but we don't do it, it's enough for them to just accept what we are saying and live by that, which is, of course, almost never the case. It can work for a short period of time because they might be scared of the consequences if they don't do what we are telling them to do. But in the long run, it's ultimately not a very good strategy because, again, they don't see this kind of internal alignment, and our integrity between how we are acting in the world, and showing up for them and what they hear us saying. And like a very basic example is, we watching TV while telling them that they cannot watch TV. We eating junk food while telling them that they cannot eat junk food. We eating ice cream, and telling them that they cannot eat ice cream. Right? This is also very frustrating because we are actively telling them that they should not trust in the end what they hear. Right? They cannot see that the advice is only available and applicable to them. They feel those instructions as being universally applicable. So if we tell them that they cannot do something, but they see us doing that thing, for them it's like a complete disconnect, and they cannot register that as a lesson. So what they will register instead is the behavior, because the behavior is more powerful in terms of information, in terms of data points, right? Like, there is this saying that one image counts for 1,000 words. So when they see us, this is what's reality in the end. No matter if we try to abstract away what they are seeing and try to rationalize with words, it doesn't match because they basically see something completely different, right? So this is what we have to have in top of our mind all the time. What they see is what they will model, because they are sponges and they have to really model what they see, because this is easier for them, right? Also for how they store memories. It's easier to remember a picture or a sequence in their life than remember some words that we are telling them. And the very powerful way to frame this and make this like hit home in terms of message, because for me this is really something that I try to live by these days, is to think about verbal and nonverbal communication as both critical, but intrinsically related and very dependable one on each other. So for example, if you think about nonverbal communication, nonverbal communication, we all know that it's more important, let's say, than verbal communication. So how we behave and what you can see on another person in terms of behavior, in terms of gestures, movement, the tone of voice, inflection points, how you articulate things, if you pause, if you don't pause, everything which is not purely linked to the words themselves, it's considered nonverbal communication. And when it comes down to conveying a message, the nonverbal communication, in terms of importance, accounts for, I think, 93% or something like this. And the words themselves only account for 7%. And a long period of time, I thought that the words don't matter, right? But then you realize that the words are ultimately the most important thing, right? Because with words, you convey information that people act upon. And a simple example here is all the politicians who can convey messages that resonate with the masses. And you can have leaders who can direct the masses in one way or another based on the words that they say. However, what's very important to realize is that those words come on a basis of perfect alignment with what they see. The nonverbal and the verbal are perfectly matching. There is no incongruence there, which means that the nonverbal is the way that you craft ultimately this kind of vehicle for passing the information, right? The nonverbal communication is what builds an effective channel for conveying the information with the words. If that nonverbal communication is not in line with the words that people hear, then the whole thing collapses. And this is very important to understand, because you realize that the words are the most important and not important at all at the same time, right? What I want to say with this, if they are in full alignment with the nonverbal, let's take the example with the kids. If we embody what we are saying, if we tell them that they should not eat ice cream, and we really genuinely believe that they should not eat ice cream, or maybe they should eat it, let's say, once a week or whatever, and we ourselves eat ice cream once a week, and we show this this message as an example to them, first of all, we believe in the message, and they will know that we are true to ourselves when we are telling them that they cannot eat ice cream on Sunday, because we don't eat ice cream on Sunday in general. And it's something that we believe in and we abide by. That information that we are sending, it's something that we live by ourselves. And this is critical. And that's why those words actually make sense and matter, because they match a pattern of behavior that they feel that it's aligned with the message. And if we choose to just tell them not to eat ice cream, but we eat ice cream, then the words don't match our behavior. And of course, what they remain with is the fact that it's okay to eat ice cream, right? And they will revolt at some point, of course, because they know that we are fooling them, right? So we cannot do this. The nice thing is that modeling the good behavior that we want them to appreciate and to embody in the end is acting as a forcing function for our own personal development and our own transformation. And this is, I think, the key insight that felt so liberating for me, because I felt at the same time a moral responsibility for modeling for them what I want them to take as valuable. At the same time, despite this feels like a pressure, it's a good thing, because this is what I anyway want to be in service of. And if the best way I can be of service to my children is that I embody the values and I am the model that I want them to be compelled by and resonate with and aligned with along their life, along the way, then that's what I have to do, right? And it's a win-win, because ultimately being this kind of good example for them gives them the example in itself, which is good, but also allows me to grow and evolve and develop myself, right? There is this very nice quote from Carl Jung, um, which I think pertains very well to this topic, and it's like, um, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. It's so beautiful, right? Um, because as human beings, besides being a parent, parenting is ultimately just a role that we play. And we play more roles in our lives. We are colleagues, we are friends, we are spouses, right? And each role comes with some sort of job description, if you want, with some sort of standard expected behavior in terms of this kind of, relationships that we develop. But if you take ownership and responsibility of developing yourself for the benefit of all these other relationships, what better gift can you leave to the world? What better legacy can you build for the people who get to benefit indefinitely in the future from all the interactions that they will have with you? What better way to minimize the regrets that you would otherwise have later in life for not doing the things, the right things, the things that you knew you should rather do than, simply offload the responsibility of doing it yourself, and pushing with words and with, emotional tension, something that you ultimately didn't embody. I think most of frustration for people comes from the fact that they intimately know that they are fooling themselves, that they are bullshitting themselves, that ultimately they are lying, right? And you can, I heard this at the philosopher John Vervaeke, a contemporary philosopher that I really like, and he said that humans can bullshit themselves, but they cannot lie to themselves. And there is a very interesting difference here, because we always know when we are not in integrity with our own values. But we can create narratives that are soothing momentarily to just give us enough relief and release the pressure for not being tormented by the fact that we live with a lie or with multiple lies. And all these fabricated stories that we create throughout the years are simply meant to give us this comfort of not having to be, completely open to ourselves. Because if you are completely true to yourself, and if you are really genuine and authentic, and allow yourself to be vulnerable and expose yourself fully to yourself and to the others, and show the best version of yourself you are capable of in that moment, that's a superpower. That's the most powerful thing you can do, because you can basically develop yourself and grow in public alongside people who will look at you as a model of a human being who is always in the process of developing himself. The journey never ends. And if we take back the example with our kids, it's not fair ultimately to show them this idealized image of a parent, of a man, in my case, because this is not reality. This does not exist. This is just creating for them the false premise, the false impression of actually um, existing, of perfection existing in itself as concepts. Perfection doesn't exist. So me being flawed and exposing my vulnerability with them, for them, allowing them to partake in my own process of self-development and growth, and allow them to be active contributors, that gives them immense, like that's a gift in itself, because they feel like they contribute, and they feel like they can actually help us back, right? um, it's like a false, in my opinion, attitude, and a wrong attitude to just try to convince our kids that we know what's best for them, and we have this authoritarian viewpoint in which we are telling them what to do and what not to do, as if we know best all the time, right? um, it's much better to be open and truthful when we fail or we do wrong, and just try to mitigate the damage as fast as possible, and be genuine with, and like fully accepting and fully responsible for our behavior. When we behave badly, we tell them that we behave badly, and we tell them also that we don't intend to do badly, but we are human beings, and sometimes we do wrong, and we are doing our best to be more careful next time. And this is what builds resilience, and this is what builds this kind of beautiful evolution where we can be completely open and vulnerable with the closest people in our lives. This is the best gift we can make ultimately for them. And because we can be so vulnerable, we don't have to defend this idealistic, static image of perfection that actually anyway doesn't exist. And as they grow, they try to they try to keep up with this image of perfection. And that builds a lot of pressure on themselves, because they believe they have to be perfect. And they believe they have to be perfect until they get to be forced into the realization that perfection is not a thing. But that comes with a lot of unnecessary pressure, and it can be very disruptive for a kid, right? um, so yeah, in my opinion, it's a very simple way of living life, very raw, very very potent ultimately. And I think again, it's our moral responsibility to embody the values that we want them to be inspired by. um, I want to be, first of all, before telling anything, the man that I would like my son to be inspired by when it comes down to how a man should treat his wife, how a man should treat his kids, how a man should treat his friends, because I'm both a friend and a parent to my kid. But my kid also sees me as a man in relationship with his spouse. And I want to model the kind of man that I want him to become when he will have a spouse. I want my daughter to see in me the kind of husband and the qualities of a husband that maybe she will look for when she will grow up. I want her to see in me the qualities of a male friend that she might be interested in looking for when she will grow up. And I want her to see in me the qualities of a caring husband to her wife. And that's such a beautiful thing to be able to do for them. That's an amazing responsibility to have. Um, but can you think of a better way to influence your children in a more positive way than simply embodying the values that you want them to be inspired by? That's for me the perfect win-win strategy. And the good part is that this is like a journey that never ends, because we never stop growing, they never stop growing, and because we build this confidence along the way, they will see us as trusted partners throughout their own life, throughout their own development, and they will actively seek our guidance. They will allow us in their life when they will get damaged, when they will have problems, because they know that we are able to expose ourselves first. We exposed ourselves first. We showed them first what it means to be vulnerable and how powerful it is to be vulnerable, so that when they are vulnerable, they can come to us and they can embody vulnerability as a strength, not as a weakness. And they will not be scared that the society or whoever could damage them because they are willing to be authentic and expose their vulnerability. They saw a different option. They saw us modeling something different for them. And that's such a beautiful responsibility to carry as a parent. Um, yeah, it's as most things in life is just a matter of looking at things that we tend to take for granted in a different way, and understand that ultimately, everything that seems to be challenging and difficult, including parenting, is intrinsically very rewarding. The more challenging something is in life in general, the more lessons can be learned and the more rewarding the process from going through the challenge. This is something that I experienced in my life, and I experienced it in such a way that now is an embodied knowledge for me. This is not just something conceptually. I know that challenges come with lessons to be learned, and the only thing that we have to do is simply to give into the process, be completely available to doing the things that we have to do, and not be burdened by the responsibility, but rather take ownership of it and be grateful for the fact that with that responsibility, we get to have absolute power and absolute autonomy. And there is no one out there who can actually influence negatively what we are about in the world. It's up to us, it's our decision. Um, but of course, like they say, with big responsibility, with big power comes also big responsibility. So it's a double-edged sword, if you want. But if you look at it from a positive angle, this kind of power, nurtures a good kind of responsibility. So if we are really conscious about this, we will be able to become the type of person that um, we can always be proud of, and that we can always smile back to when we see it in the mirror. Um, yeah, I think that's it for this video, and I hope that you give a chance, that you give yourself a chance, and that you try to push yourself beyond what feels comfortable now, because there are incredible rewards at the end of what seems to be only in appearance a difficult and painful process. If you want any kind of support in your journey of transformation, you can find a link in the description and you can book a completely free coaching call with me, in which I will do my best to guide you to find clarity in your journey and see for yourself what matters most to you. Until next time.